Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Today we are looking at the Eifel Grand Prix, which finished literally about 10 minutes ago. So, still fresh in my mind, we'll discuss what went on in this race. We'll also be looking at the Honda leaving Formula 1 incident, I don't know what we want to call it. And there's a few other things. Maybe we'll discuss some things for next year as well. But I just want to say we are nearing 100 subscribers. I have started a few things as a sort of 100 subscriber special. So if you're interested, if you want to subscribe to the channel, now's the time to do it. Hopefully by the time I reach 100, those videos will be ready. But I'm planning it'll be like 5 videos on the same day kind of deal. I have a few ideas, which I won't spoil. So definitely the time to subscribe to the channel. So with that, let's sit back, relax, and let's look at the Eifel Grand Prix of 2020.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So I'll start by saying I didn't do a review of the Russian Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. That's because, unfortunately, I've been ill for a while and I had a hospital appointment when the race was actually on. And when I was done, I was feeling kind of out of it. So I didn't even watch the race until Monday evening. And by that point, there's not really any reason to do a review on it. It's a bit late. So I watched it. It was kind of a boring race anyway, but it's the first one I've missed, which is a shame, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. But the Eifel Grand Prix, I feel really sorry for Bottas. As much as I shit on him all the time for not being very good, and that's not really fair, he's more mediocre than not very good. He was doing a really good job this weekend, beat Hamilton in qualifying by a quarter of a second. He was controlling the race, he then had that lock-up, lost the lead, and then it just seemed to be a domino effect of bad things happening to Bottas, which does seem to happen quite a lot to him. And it pretty much guarantees that Hamilton will be champion. Bottas probably couldn't catch him anyway. In fact, no one can. So, once again, Mercedes domination, Hamilton wins. There is nothing else to say about it. It's just the way it always is. But of course, Hamilton has equalled Schumacher's record. What does this mean? It means he will have an asterisk every time someone mentions his success. 91 wins is incredible, but it's going to be asterisks in the most dominant era of Formula 1 thanks to Mercedes. That's not entirely fair because obviously he has to be a very good driver as well, but the point is you could put Antonio Giovinazzi in a Mercedes and he will win a race. You could put a wet bag of sand, draw a face on it, and it will win races in a Mercedes. Probably more than Giovinazzi would actually. So it's the same with Michael Schumacher, I feel, that whenever you see something about Michael Schumacher's impressive record, it will always say, in the early 2000s, Ferrari are dominant, and this led to 5 world championships and like 60 wins for Michael Schumacher, plus the ones he had with Benetton before. I think when you have a dominant driver with a single manufacturer, it's always going to put like a bubble around that era of success. I think for Schumacher, he had a long time before Ferrari were good, where he was winning races and doing quite well, and Benetton as well. And Hamilton, okay, he's got the McLaren era, but that's more of a down period. Because yes, he did win his first world championship with McLaren. He also had a few abysmal years with them, where he didn't really look like the top-class driver that he's gone on to be. And Mercedes' dominance, does it ruin the sport? No. In fact, that level of competitiveness makes it seem like more of a technological marvel. But it's not exciting to watch. And you watch WRC, the manufacturers are all on a fairly even till, even though it's Toyota versus Hyundai, you've still got 3 or 4 drivers who could win a race or a rally. British touring cars, anyone can win a race really. And it's the cream of the crop that rises then, because they are consistently good over a season. That's exciting to watch because then you go into it thinking anybody can win a race. Anything can happen. In Formula 1, you're almost guaranteed that Hamilton's going to win. It's almost more exciting when he doesn't. Or if he crashed out on the first lap, like, oh my god, someone else is actually going to win. That's when the excitement. And, just to reiterate that point, Monza was an amazing race, and it was because Hamilton wasn't in the lead, and Bottas wasn't in the lead, and Verstappen wasn't in third. So, in terms of excitement, I will always say this is the weakest era of Formula One's history. Just because since 2014 to now, the hybrid era, it's been dominated by one team. There's normally one other team there or thereabouts, but they are not this year, and that is Ferrari. And Red Bull kind of just behind, picking up the odd bits and pieces here and there. Everyone else scrapping for what they can get, and I'm really happy that Ricciardo got a podium. It's the first Renault podium since 2011. That is an age, but of course they did get podiums as Lotus. But for them to progress the way they've progressed this year, Renault looked like they could be where Red Bull are now in terms of just a few seconds behind Mercedes. So, has Daniel Ricciardo made the wrong choice going to McLaren in the same way that Carlos Sainz has probably made the wrong choice in going to Ferrari? We'll have to wait and see. McLaren with Mercedes power, we don't know how competitive they're going to be. And they'll probably still be up there, so it's probably just a sideways move for Ricciardo. But obviously, Renault will be Alpine next year, they're going to have Alonso. Who knows where they're going to be? I mean, they're making out that Alonso is going to be this competitive force straight away. Obviously, he's had a few years out. He's going to have to get used to the cars again. I mean, with testing, that's going to help. We don't know how long that's going to take. But still, Renault on the rise. Great shame for Ocon. Didn't finish the race, but Ricciardo is probably the best driver on the grid this year. Now, I said at the start of the season it was Norris. Things haven't gone his way in the second half so far. And he was fourth. Now Ricciardo is. But I would say so far, mostly based on the last 4 or 5 races, Ricciardo is probably the driver doing the best. Even better than Verstappen, who constantly amazes me that he's anywhere near Mercedes. As for the rest of the field, just going for it team by team, we've done Mercedes, Red Bull again. Verstappen did a very good job just being there. 10 seconds off the pace is probably where Red Bull are in comparison to Mercedes, which is why it is so easy for the likes of Hamilton and Bottas. But he's doing as good a job as he can, plus some more, because he is far way exceeding the limits of that car. He's done an amazing job, and he's sort of confined to third in the championship, I think. But still, Verstappen will be a world champion one day. As for Albon, this was a terrible weekend. He had his issues early on, had to change them to hard tyres. Or he did change on the mediums, and he just wasn't very good. He was on mediums. Locked up, ruined his tyres. He hit Kvyat, had a 5-second penalty, and then retired anyway. It's not looking good for Albon. I don't think he'll be in a Red Bull next year. Renault, as I said, Ricciardo doing very well. Ocon is doing fine. Ocon was in the points. Just reliability for him just wasn't there. That's a shame. McLaren, again, Norris deserved more, had to retire. Sainz did a very good job getting back up to 5th. He's shown that he deserves a seat at a top team, and he's getting it. It's just a shame that Ferrari are in the shape they're in. You have to hope that Ferrari will be winning races again at some point. It's just probably not until 2022 at the earliest, and who knows when. So we're just going to have to keep an eye out on Sainz. He's a great driver. Leclerc is doing a great job for Ferrari this year as well, and Leclerc and Sainz is a great pairing. We'll talk about Ferrari next. As I said, Leclerc done great, really. Again, I think he is exceeding the car because the car is dreadful. But Vettel, again, out the points. He's having a terrible season. I think he just wants it to be over. Get those Aston Martin colours on. Move on. But Ferrari, pretty dire. And, they're going to be confined to something like 7th in the Constructors. That's pretty bad for Ferrari. You always expect them to be top 2 at least. It's a mistake. Everything's gone wrong if they're 3rd in the Constructors. If they're 7th or 6th or 7th, that is an awful season. Racing Point, Super Sub, Hulkenberg came back in again, scored points. Always a competent driver. He deserves a race seat. I think we notice it more now because when he was there all the time, he was kind of just putting in consistent lower points finishes. Now he's actually just jumping in for a race or two. You actually see how good he is, and he holds himself very well on a racetrack. He's a very, very competent driver. I'd never say first class, but I kind of wish he'd get a drive in a Mercedes just to get that first podium because he really deserves it. Perez, again, it was the standard Perez performance, did a very good job. Point scoring, you can always count on Perez to do that well. And it's stupid they're getting rid of him for Vettel. Honestly, Vettel should just retire because he's been there a long time. He's had his success and he's not going to reach that level again. But by maybe being at Aston Martin for a couple of years, he'll help them get off the ground. So we'll have to wait and see. Shame for Lance Stroll. He's sort of lost his way a little bit. I think this will be 3 races in a row where he's not got anything. This time because he was ill. Hopefully it's not COVID. Hopefully he can come back at the next race. Hopefully he's alright. Don't want to lose him for the rest of the season if there's something very badly wrong with him. But if he isn't there, Hulkenberg will be there to step in. So I think Racing Point are in a good place, really. Oh, who's next? AlphaTauri. Gasly did a fantastic job again. Really looks like he should be in the Red Bull team, but then we know that didn't work when last time we put him up there. Be interesting to see what they do next year, Red Bull. Kvyat. I don't know what happened to him actually. I think I went out for a cigarette for 10 minutes and I came back and he was last. So, he lost his front ring. That was it. I remember now. Not his fault, and he was doing quite well before that. He was only just behind Gasly, so bad luck for Kvyat. He didn't drive badly. It just wasn't his fault. Oh God, who else is on the grid? Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi did a really good job in this race. He didn't crash, which is always a start for Giovinazzi, but he got a point as well, and he was ahead of Raikkonen. So I don't think it's going to be enough to save his seat. I think he's going to have to do some spectacular work. If he scores points at every round to the end of the season, he deserves another chance. Anything less than that, he's really blown through all his chances. So I don't think we'll be seeing Giovinazzi next year. And I think that's a shame because when he was in GP2, he looked like a great driver, and his Formula 1 career just hasn't worked out for him. Raikkonen, 323 starts. It's pretty incredible to think. I was only about 12 when he debuted. In fact, I might have been younger than that. So the length of time he's been there, and obviously he missed a few years to go rallying as well. If he'd stayed then, he'd be nearing 400 race starts. That's amazing. This wasn't a good race for him. He took out Russell and just was never on the pace. But, Raikkonen, can do better than this. And I'm sure by the time he retires, whether it's this year, which I think it will be, from what I've heard, he's going to be scoring a few more points at least. I don't think Raikkonen's going to win any more races. Haas. Grosjean finally scored some points. And that makes my day, because I love Grosjean. For no other reason than he just seems like a really nice guy. And he's managed to hang on in Formula 1 despite having a pretty mediocre career for a very long time now. I mean, he made his debut back in 2009? 2008? 2009? He replaced Nelson Piquet in 2008 after Crashgate. Finally scoring points. Goody. Magnussen, he was there. And he dropped down towards the end. I would be surprised if Haas retain either of their drivers next year. The only reason I can think of is Grosjean's head of the GPDA. And it might be worth keeping him around for that, for some reason. But otherwise, why would you? They have done nothing this year. But the car's not there. The Ferrari power unit's not there. Haas can do better than this. And hopefully they'll stick around to do better. And finally, Williams. They're just another really bad race. Russell looks okay. He probably could have scored a point in this race. I can imagine him getting ahead of Grosjean. But he got taken out by Raikkonen. Great shame. Latifi... He's doing good enough, just finishing races. His first year in an uncompetitive car, you can't really expect anything more from him. And he's on the pace, so you get a pass. As for the championship, as I said, I think Hamilton's pretty much wrapped it up. I think Bottas will be able to secure second easily enough, and I think Verstappen is definitely in third. I think he's got twice as many points as fourth place. I predicted that Ricciardo would finish fourth. Not in my predictions video, sadly, but I think fairly recently someone commented on a video asking who I thought was going to finish fourth. As it is the most interesting battle in Formula 1. The stakes all through the season are on who's going to finish fourth. And that's what's wrong with the whole show, really. But I do think Ricciardo's going to finish fourth. Renault have improved massively from last year and the year before that. They look like the third best... Right now, they look like the third best team. Behind him, it could be anyone. Norris... Perez, Stroll if he comes back quick enough. Albon still has a chance of that. Gasly, if he keeps scoring points, could get that. I think he's a fair ways off, but it's not impossible. Leclerc as well is doing well enough scoring points that he could be a contender to fourth. In the constructors, obviously Mercedes, Red Bull, that's easy. McLaren, they seem to have not recently, but they were having two drivers consistently in the points. But they seem to have dropped off a little bit, and Norris hasn't finished for 2 in a row, and Sainz didn't finish the race before that. And they had a double retirement as well. Racing Point the same. They seem to have one driver do really badly whilst the other one does really well. And Renault, again, they seem to have one driver finish and the other one retire. So it's impossible to tell who's going to be third in the Constructors. I don't think it's going to be Ferrari just because Vettel is scoring no points. I think he scored 1 in the last 5 or something. But that is the most interesting battle, as I said. The 3rd place in the Constructors and 4th in the Drivers' Championship. Moving on to Honda leaving. I'm shocked and disappointed in them. Honda never seemed to stick around for long. They joined the grid for the first time in the mid-60s. And it was like this new manufacturer coming from this uncharted nation in Formula 1 terms. There wasn't really any Japanese teams or drivers before Honda. And I think there wasn't even any Japanese drivers till a few years after Honda, and not with Honda. Was it John Surtees who won a race? Richie Ginther, I think, won a race with Honda. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they came and they looked like they were going to be the next big thing. I think they barely completed a full season. I think in 5 years they had 1 full season, and they might have skipped a couple of races that year. They won races, but they didn't stick around. They were just gone again. And they've come back as engine manufacturers. Obviously, McLaren had success with them in the 80s. But since then, I mean, when they signed on as like technical partners with BAR and then took that team over, Honda as a team then were only around for 3 years. Was it 2 years? I think it was BAR in 2006 and then Honda 2007 and 2008 and then Braun in 2009 because Honda decided they didn't want anything to do with it because we went through a recession. Same thing's happened again with coronavirus has caused an economic downturn. Honda want to protect themselves and Formula 1's too expensive for them, so they've thrown in the towel straight away. This isn't a good thing for Formula 1 when you think Renault were making noises about leaving Formula 1 not that long ago, and you'd hope that changing to Alpine means they'll stick around a bit longer. But there's only 3 engine manufacturers on the grid, so if they lose another one, it's hard to imagine Ferrari going, and Mercedes have been there a long time now. They're not going to go anywhere quick. But you're losing engine manufacturers quickly, and even though you're getting a manufacturer back in Aston Martin, they're not going to have their own engine. McLaren don't make their own engine. They rely on other teams. And this isn't the era where anyone can join the grid and just pick up a Cosworth engine, which was the old way. Like in the 90s, there was loads of shitty engine manufacturers. You had Subaru making Formula 1's engines briefly. Lamborghini made engines. You had Hart. You had just some awful ones. But there was always Cosworth if you were desperate for an engine. But nowadays it's Renault, Mercedes or Ferrari, and the Ferrari engine's terrible at the moment. So they can't lose another one. And it's hard to see where Red Bull are going to go because they probably can't go back to Renault because they had a really bad relationship by the end of it. And Mercedes have already said they're not going to give Red Bull engines. And Ferrari engine in 2021 is going to not be that much better than it is now, and it's not a very good engine. You can't imagine that in 2022 it's going to be any better. You could hope, but you know, I mean, I think they will end up, if there's no other manufacturers to bring engines to the grid, I think they'll end up with Ferrari engines as the best option, just because their relationship with Renault turned so sour. They weren't even calling them Renault engines, they were Tag Heuer. They just rebadged Renault engines, but they wouldn't use the Renault name. So unless they've not burnt that bridge, and Renault might say, well, it's extra money, and there's less Renault teams on the grid anyway, with McLaren leaving, at least they'll have a customer. So, I mean, Mercedes always said no, so it'll be Renault or Ferrari. I think it would make more sense to go Ferrari. They do have links with Ferrari when Toro Rosso had Ferrari engines. I do think they'll end up with Renault engines, though, again. But if Renault are improving, that might not be a bad thing. But it's hard to tell right now. But yeah, on Honda, I wish they would stick with it because they've come a long way from 2015 and that awful season with McLaren. And, you know, another engine manufacturer is always good for the grid. So, they're gone. And that's it, really. I don't think there's much more to discuss. Of Hamilton's record, he's done it. You know, it's been amazing. What is it, 12 years, 13 years? It's a long time, and it doesn't really feel that long. But he's been there a long time now. And it is pretty incredible the numbers he's racked up. I don't put a lot of weight behind numbers because, as I said, it's so slanted by Mercedes being so dominant. But it is still a massive achievement. I'm not diminishing that. It is incredible, and he is an incredible driver. It's just Formula One is not in good shape nowadays, and that's what alarms me the most. Because, as I said, like if I'm sitting down watching WRC or British touring cars, I do genuinely like get excited about watching it. I love motorsport, Formula 2 and Formula 3 as well. I love watching it, but with Formula 1, it's always just a sense of who's going to be third then, who's going to be fourth. You never really have those high stakes going through the season. I haven't been excited for the end of a Formula 1 season in years, probably since 2008, maybe 2000. Oh, I suppose 2016. When it's like Rosberg could beat Hamilton, and he did. But, you know, when you've had 4 years where the championship is already wrapped up by the time the season ends, it's such a drag. And today, I mean, I don't really talk about the kneeling for the racism stuff because I don't really watch that part of the show anymore. I used to watch the whole thing religiously. As soon as like the trackside stuff started, 2 hours before the race, I would watch it. Nowadays, it's on a Sunday. I tend to do all my chores on a Sunday. So I tend to hoover the house and dust and cook lunch and stuff. And today I took my kid to a swimming lesson and we got back literally 10 minutes before the race started. So by the time I got him in and everything was sorted out, it was literally starting. I sat down and the race started. So I just don't have time to watch the pre-shows. I don't really know what's going on until a long time after. Because I watched the Formula 1, make this video, upload it, then check out everything else that's gone on. So if there's any penalties or anything, I'm not going to know until after this video goes up. Because I don't look. I'll be getting dinner on in a minute. So anyway, as for the channel, thank you for your continued support. The subscriber number seems to be going up pretty quickly, and I need time to work on those 100 subscriber specials. Hopefully they'll be done in time, but I'm also trying to make content to release, and I'm also making content for another channel, Dark Place Games. If you're into video gaming, I know you have like a million choices, but me and my brother, we do make gaming videos. We are currently playing things like Penumbra and Men in Black on PS1, which is a truly dreadful experience, which we haven't uploaded any of those yet. They'll be coming soon. So if you like really mixed bag of games, honestly, we haven't really had a proper system in place as to what we're playing, but you go to Dark Place Games, subscribe, check out some of those videos, subscribe to this channel. I'm making more content. Hopefully, I've had a sort of mixed few weeks. Well, I did Le Mans week. I was actually ill off work that week, and so I had time. I was just pumping out videos, sort of just stop myself going crazy. Since then, I've had hospital appointments and I've not been feeling too well, so I've been trying to make content, but it's been a lot slower. So there'll be another video out this week, probably 2 if I can. So make sure you come back and keep an eye on the channel, and I'll thank you for watching and have a good one.